Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to tell you how to find out if your alternator's bad. Your car's alternator here charges the battery. It stops charging, your battery will go dead, and you'll be stranded somewhere. Mechanics like myself have these Midtronics testers. They're very good testers. You can test the alternator every once in a while. Have your mechanic do it just to make sure. It also tests the battery. In this case, both the battery and the alternator checked out okay, and later in this video, I'm going to show you how that's done. But I don't want the engine to get too hot because I'm going to be working on it. Because this is my wife's car, and I know the alternator's bad because they don't always go bad electronically. This one's charging. But if you listen, you can hear a whirring noise. Now, with this cool electronic stethoscope that doesn't cost that much, we turn it on, put it on the alternator, you can certainly hear this. Put on the alternator. Because alternators can go bad electronically, but they can also go bad physically. There's bearings in here. And that one, here's the new one, but the old one, as it's spinning, you can hear the bearings humming. That's that noise. It means it's time to change it sooner than later, because if the bearing goes up, this can lock up, you'll be stranded, and the fan belt will go flying. I bought this electronic stethoscope for 59 bucks on Amazon. Man, is it handy for finding noise. Got a long one, a short one. You can hear noises with this thing. It works great for finding any kind of noise, as long as it makes it when the car's sitting there. Kind of hard to use it if you're driving down the road, sticking your head under the hood. That's impossible. But for any stationary noises, these things are great. And I'm always losing stuff, so it's great that it comes in this case. You can zip it up. Then you can hang it on a hook like I do on the wall, so you don't lose it. Now we're going to replace the alternator. So in this case, get a 10mm socket. Disconnect the battery first. You don't want to fry anything. Good safety, just disconnect the negative terminal, put it out of the way, so it's not going to touch the battery. And there's no power in the system, you can't short anything out. Now this car's pretty cut and dry. The alternator's on the top, so we'll take off the main power line here. 10mm again. If we hadn't disconnected the power, you could short stuff out. Now it has no power, so it can't hurt anything. Then you just grab and squeeze the clip, and that's the feed for the alternator. And we'll move it over here. Pretty straightforward alternator. There's a bolt here, and there's another one on the bottom, so we'll loosen them all up. The top one is a 14mm, we'll loosen it a little. And the bottom one is 12. We'll loosen that a little. It's harder to get to, but you can hear it's breaking loose. 2002 Lexus, so it's old style. It's not auto adjusting. There's a bolt right there that tensions it, so that's 12mm. It's hard to reach at an angle, so I got this wiggler on the end of my socket assembly. We'll put that on. Then it fits right on top of it at an angle. You can see now we can take it off without having any problems, because the angle comes up straight and we can loosen it. Now we just have to loosen it. The original one, so it's been on there a while. As we do, the fan belt will get loose and we can take it off. Now we can do it by hand, if I'm not totally wimpy. There we go. We just keep loosening it so that the fan belt gets loose. And as you can see now, we can get the fan belt off, move it out of the way, and take this off. So we'll finish taking the bottom bolt off, put it up here, and then take the top bolt off. They're in there pretty long, so it takes a while to unscrew them. I'm getting old, but I can still twist them. But then again, this is a 19-year-old Lexus, and it's the original alternator. Then we get the bottom bolt off. Then we get the top bolt off. You can't confuse them. This one's a lot longer than the other one. And we wiggle this thing off. It's been on there for years, so it's going to take some wiggling. Don't be shy. Wiggle the heck out of it. Finally, it's broken loose. Of course, now the AC hose is kind of in the way. Sometimes you can move it out of the way. In this case, you're going to have to unbolt it. So we got a 10mm here. We'll unbolt that so I can move the line out of the way. We're not disconnecting it. That's just a bolt that holds it from wobbling. So then we can have more space. It's out now. Now you can see we have more space. Even then it's a tight fit, but now at least we're able to get it out without taking the rest of the car apart. No, I normally like new original equipment, but they're so expensive on these. I went to AutoZone, and for 150 bucks, I got a lifetime warranty one. It's still the Denso alternator. It's been remanufactured. And believe me, you get a remanufactured alternator, don't buy the cheapest one. They had cheaper ones. This is a more expensive one, but it has a lifetime warranty. I've used them for years, had almost no problems at all with them. Then it's simply wiggling it back in place here. It's easy to put them in because gravity's on your side now. You're not going against gravity, you're going with gravity. So as you can see, it was a lot easier putting it back in place than it was taking it apart. And we line up the holes, do the top one first. Then you slide the boat in. Gotta wiggle it a little and start tightening it. Then do the bottom one. Before you forget, slip the fan belt on now when it's loose before you put the bottom bolt in. Now getting the belt on is harder with the fat one, so I got a thin gear wrench here that flexes. So I can get it on the bolt here and tighten it easier without messing anything up. Well, there goes one of them. And this is where Mr. Magnet comes in handy. You can get all your drop pieces real easy. I even found some I wasn't even looking for. Tighten them all up. First we do the top one, and we make it snug, but not super tight, because we got to tighten the belt. So I'll just keep going until it's snug. It takes a while. They're long bolts. I'm not kidding, they're long bolts. We're getting there. There, now that's snug. Then we'll get our 12mm and a wiggler to do the tensioner. First we'll do it by hand because it's real loose now. We want to make this belt here nice and snug. Then we'll finish it off with the ratchet. We want this to be nice and snug on the top rung. A little bit loose. That's nice and tight. You tell. You grab the belt, and if you can just twist it 45 degrees, that's plenty tight. Tighten up that bolt and this bolt. Can't have them super tight while you're tightening it or it won't move. Now we don't want it to move because we adjusted it, so we'll tighten. These you want nice and snug. You don't want the alternator wobbling off. First do the bottom one. Got lots of threads on them, that's for sure. Then do the top one. Same thing. You want them real snug. And of course, find the plug wherever it's gone to. There it is. Plug that in. It only goes one way with the snap towards the front. Snap it in. And remember to put the main power line on. There's the new bolt it came with. Stick that on and tighten it up. Then snug that on with 10mm. You don't want to get it stripped. Just nice and snug. And now it's all safe. So we'll put the negative terminal back on. Get it snug. And we'll start it up. Just ignore the air conditioner behind me. The alternator noise is gone, but I don't trust anyone, especially remanufacture stuff, so I'm going to show you how we test them too. Make sure it's working. Negative on negative, positive on positive, and this baby's putting out 14.1, 14.0 volts, lots of voltage, but we're going to check more. Now I did hear a rattling sound I didn't hear before, but that's because I left a giant screwdriver. I just double check it works, so now you know how to check if your alternator's bad and how to replace it yourself. It's not that complicated. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Mod Rocker says, should I get a Chevrolet Spark or Japanese? I want to add a Chevy Spark as a weekend city car. I think it's a fun car. Well, what do you think of this? You're saying the GM Spark versus Japanese cars, all right? Well, one, the GM Spark is an Asian car anyway. It's made in South Korea. GM, the name GM doesn't mean anything these days. They make a lot of cars in China. You got to find out where the thing is made, if you can get a good price on it. But you want a fun little weekend toy, I mean, go right ahead. If all you want is a fun weekend toy, why waste your money on a new car? There's plenty of used cars out there. You can get electric used Nissan Leafs dirt cheap, and they still got a lot of life, and you're only using it as a toy, so you don't care that you only have 99 miles of range. I mean, heck, I had a neighbor in Houston, he bought a Model S Tesla. Hey, brand new, they were 126,000 bucks. He bought one that had 15,000 miles on it for $45,000, like 1/3 the price. I still wouldn't pay 45 grand, but it was 1/3 of a new one. And you can find that with used Leafs and stuff, a lot less than 1/3 of the original price for one that still's got a lot of life. So why buy a new one? Heck, go out and buy a used one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.